In this video, I'm going to introduce the rapid spiral exit, which is taking the energy of a spiral directly into a strong pitching climb and dive that has to be caught. To jump right into it, you're going to start with a spiral dive, which you're going to exit with a strong outside brake and weight shift input while fully releasing the inside brake all at once. You're going to hold this input and cause the glider to start rolling overhead. Just before it arrives overhead, you're going to stop the roll motion away from the horizon with a small weight shift and brake input back onto the original inside of the same side as the spiral you started, so that you stop the roll motion when the glider is directly overhead. Once you stop that roll motion and you begin to climb, you go hands up all the way during the pitch and you wait until the glider arrives overhead and then come into contact with the brake and then begin progressively braking stronger and stronger to control the pitch towards the horizon. At the moment the pitch of the glider stops relative to the horizon and it's motionless in front of you, you begin to release the brakes to fly away. On the left side, I have a fast spiral exit compared to a normal spiral exit on the right. I want to illustrate that all of the inputs are the same in terms of the order and which inputs you're going to do. The difference is the intensity and the timing of them. So from a left spiral dive, I'm going to exit by weight shifting and braking to the outside to end the spiral. The difference is the input is smaller with the spiral exit. All I'm trying to do is get the leading edge to leave the horizon and control the inside wingtip so that it remains near the horizon as I gradually roll the glider overhead over 1 or 2 turns to bleed the energy out. In contrast, the fast spiral exit, I bring the glider directly overhead and roll. I again add the original spiral side weight shift and brake input to stop the roll motion, but just enough that I stop the glider in roll so that it continues in pitch. And then while I'm bleeding the energy out normal spiral exit, I catch the dive with the fast spiral exit to dissipate the energy. Here it is again in slow motion, so you can see how they compare. Both sides, you go to the outside to exit the spiral, but you hold on to it for longer. In the fast spiral exit, you give a little input back into the spiral side. You allow the glider to climb. You wait until the glider comes overhead. You begin to come into contact with the brakes. You see the glider slow down relative to the horizon, and you release the brakes to fly away. The exit is really important because it allows you to simulate strong chutes, which plays into later maneuvers like exiting backfly. So on the left, I have the climb out of a fast spiral exit. On the right, I have a stabilized backfly. And I want to illustrate how the exits are very similar to each other in idea. So I'm allowing the glider to pitch forward, and when I see that the pitching forward motion is ending, it's slowing down here, and I see that stops, that's the moment that I can release the brakes and control the pitch to keep the glider out in front of me as I return to flight. In the beginning, it's better to learn this gradually, preferably with a low B glider, which has less energy, and also taking less energy in your spiral. You don't need to take multiple turns of spiral. Even starting off with a half turn or a 3/4 turn is sufficient, which requires a less aggressive input to stop the spiral on the outside. And that will make the climb less dramatic and the chute less demanding to manage. But what you're eventually going for is a strong pitching climb, which is caused by an aggressive exit with the outside, a strong impulsive input with outside weight shift and outside brake to stop the spiral as quickly as you can, ideally within about a 90-degree turn. You're going to bring that glider overhead quickly, adding that inside spiral side input to stop the roll. And what you're looking for is that the trailing edge will end up parallel with the horizon with no excess roll motion right or left, just pure pitch motion that you catch and release. When you're learning this, it's normal to not have it be perfectly symmetrical, and it's okay as long as the roll motion is not excessive. So in this example, I exit the spiral, but I don't use enough inside input to go back, and I end up with some extra roll motion causing an asymmetric shoot. In slow motion, you can see again, I'm leaving the spiral, but I don't use enough inside input, and the glider continues rolling from right to left. What this ends up causing with this roll motion is the chute becomes asymmetric. In this case, the right side wingtip is shooting towards the horizon first, which means I'm going to asymmetrically break the wingtip that is approaching the horizon first, allowing the other wingtip to catch up before adding brake onto its side. And when I see that the leading edge is no longer approaching the horizon, I can release those brakes and exit into a slight turn. It's okay to have small roll motion. If you're within 30, 45 degrees or so, it's not a big deal. You'll have a little bit of a strange asymmetric movement, but nothing really wild will happen. What you do want to avoid is being excessive with the exiting input. So in this example, the pilot actually did not intend to do a fast spiral exit, but he ended up doing a very aggressive one by taking many turns of spiral energy and using a massive input that he didn't stop with the inside brake, and then made a couple more mistakes that I'll dive into. In this case, he ended up having to throw his reserve. So he had a ton of energy. He used a massive, massive outside input, and you can see the glider quickly, or the right wingtip quickly leaves the horizon, and he's still maintaining this outside brake input even while the glider is about to arrive overhead. You have to add that spiral side inside input before the glider arrives overhead so you don't continue to roll. The second mistake he makes is during the climb out, he's still applying some brakes. You can see the deflection in the trailing edge. And if you add brake during the climb, you're gonna make the pitch bigger, and you even risk stalling the glider. So when it's climbing, even if your roll isn't perfect, you need to go hands up. You can try to control the roll with a little bit of weight shift, but you're better off just going hands up during the climb and waiting. In this case, he's riding the brakes all the way through the end, making the pitch huge, even stalling the glider. And he went so high that he went above the glider, causes the lines to go slack. So the three things you want to keep in mind is when you're learning this, try to do it on a lower energy glider first. Don't take so much energy, and don't use an excessive amount of outside brake to stop it. You can always work your way up to stopping increasingly aggressively. The second mistake is making sure that you don't add brakes during the climb. And then the third thing to watch out for is you need to brake early and strong enough so that you don't get a front collapse as the glider shoots, but you don't want to brake so early and so excessively that you stall the glider. As you do this with less energy, it's increasingly forgiving of being a little bit off with the inputs. And as you take more and more energy, you have to become increasingly precise with the timing and the amount of brake to use. So a couple of reasons why this drill is so good. So the first, like we talked about, is it's really good preparation for learning to exit backfly, because you're comfortable with the idea of allowing the glider to pitch forward and releasing the brakes when it's in front of you but not moving forward. The second reason this drill is really good is when you're working up your spiral confidence and you're taking more and more energy, you get comfortable with using as much input as you need to stop the spiral and not being afraid of overdoing it, and kind of knowing where the limit of too much is so that you don't get stuck in a spiral or an auto rotation. And the third is it gives you really good practice with extreme pitch behavior and getting comfortable with the idea of going hands up and being patient when the glider's far behind you, and not being afraid of being able to catch the chute. A couple things you can do to increase the intensity as you get better and better at this drill is you can take more energy, you can exit more aggressively, and you can wait later and later and get right up to the edge of how late and aggressively you can catch the chute without stalling the glider and without having it collapse. I love to have all my students spend a lot of time on this drill because it really prepares them for more advanced maneuvers like stalls. And a lot of pilots find it to be really fun and really confidence building. So I encourage people to spend a lot of time on this one and get really comfortable with their glider and with the nuances of spirals, and not being afraid of a fast exit when you know how it works and how to control it safely.